A few years ago, I hit one of the worst slumps of my entire life. Of all the things, vision board making was what got me out of it. Here's how. Check it out. Hello, friendly friends of the internet. If this is your first time here, be sure to subscribe to this channel where we choose growth, we choose gratitude, and we choose joy. And we choose ice cream for a carefree and a financially free lifestyle. And be sure to check out the link to our blog below for more on vision board making. In this video, I'm going to show you how vision board making got me out of one of the worst slumps I think I've ever had in my entire life. And I'm going to show you the vision board that I use to help pull myself out of that slump. Before I show you that board, I want to share a little bit about why that year was so bad for me. I had just become a new father and there was a lot of emotions involved in all of that. I was working a really intense job as a math teacher at an international boarding school, and the demands had just become too much. I'd quit my job and I was feeling a lot of purpose anxiety, not really knowing who I am. And I was starting to fall back into some really unhealthy habits that I'd had before. A lot of anxiety and a lot of obsessive tendencies. All things I've dealt with my entire life that I'd started to conquer a little bit. Those all came rushing back during this year. So that being said, it was a horrible year for me. One day my wife said, hey, you know what we're gonna do Friday night? We're gonna have a date night. We're gonna make vision boards together. And I remember thinking, guys don't make vision boards, but I've always had this weird knack for scrapbooking. So I just went with it. And I came up with something pretty cool that really did help pull me out of that slump. So to start making that vision board, I took 4 pieces of paper and I just kind of like glued them together. It's nothing high tech. This is literally something I just pieced together with construction paper. But you can see that I've got this yellow-green theme going on. I'm super into comic books, and Green Lantern's superpower is the ability to overcome fear. Over here we have the symbol for fear. So those two things kind of represented the anxiety and the fear that I was feeling all of a sudden just being at home with a new baby, something I'd never really done before. And then of course the green represents the courage to overcome that fear. So a little bit of symbolic stuff going on there, and that's kind of carried throughout. So after just quitting my job, I was starting to work from home, and I was finding myself in this new role as like a full-time father, essentially, which I'd never done before. And so I really started identifying with this idea of breaking convention. I started finding a lot of purpose in that and taking pride in that. I ended up carving with this new sense of identity of being this like stay-at-home involved father that wasn't like a lot of the other dads out there. And that gave me this new sense of meaning in my life and a lot of courage to overcome a lot of the fear and anxiety that I was feeling. So at the top here, I just have a couple of goals that I put down to sort of keep myself focused on a lot of the things that I was trying to do in my life. So things like being an involved father, working from home in a cool job that nobody even knows existed, being proud of the unique traits and talents I have that make me, like scrapbooking. Taking the time to scrapbook with my wife, just doing really cool things together that I think a lot of couples would never really think of doing. This was a big one for me. I was starting to go back into these habits of spending money on random stuff, comic books, video games. This is a quote that I found that says, "There's nothing for sale right now that you can't find on your own bookshelf or in your own home." This was a good reminder that I have a lot of stuff in my life already. I don't need to add more stuff. And lastly, there are no rules, just follow your heart. Because I was in this new situation, I found myself really having no idea what to do. So all I could really do was lean back on my own heart and just using that as a compass. Now, I mentioned a lot of the obsessive tendencies I have were starting to come back, and it was manifesting in some pretty weird ways. I'm a math teacher and I have this math YouTube channel, and I was spending a lot of time on that YouTube channel and I was making an excessive amount of content, finding myself constantly checking analytics. I was sort of replacing the sense of validation that I got at my work with this arbitrary number of subscribers that I was or wasn't getting at the time. This was just a reminder to sort of remove that from my life and not place so much emphasis on it. My coffee consumption was always out of control when I was teaching, but I had this lie that I told myself that I always needed to start my day with coffee, and that coffee made me more creative and helped me relax and focus. So I just reminded myself of the lies about coffee, which I actually kind of still believe because I now have 2 kids and coffee really helps. This last one is something personal. I'm a big Star Wars fan, and I found myself at the time constantly checking the news to see if there were any updates about episode 9. You can see this was before there was even a title for episode 9, so that was something I was constantly searching up on Google for some reason. I don't really know why. I wrote things down like, your life will continue after episode 9. There will be more Star Wars after that. You won't live to see the last Star Wars film. Stop wishing time would go faster so you can watch a movie. These were all things I was trying to remind myself of so that I would just stop that obsessive, compulsive behavior. Down here are some books that I read during the year, and I made myself a little chalkboard to write down important quotes from those books that I thought held a lot of meaning for the situation I was in. The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. I just found so much in there that spoke to me as somebody who's constantly trying to be perfect all the time and just really missing out on the little things that make life so great. So when you're doing some vision board making, it's nice to put some books up with some quotes that remind you what it is that you're trying to do. This last section here is all the things in my life that I have that I'm grateful for. And you can see I've put stickers over these pictures. We don't put pictures of either of our kids on the internet. If you're curious about why, ask me in the comments and I'll let you know. This is a picture of my wife, my daughter, and myself in a homemade fort in our kitchen eating s'mores in the middle of the day. This is just to remind me that I had a lot of really simple things that I was now able to do at home that I couldn't have done before when I was working out of the house all the time. My wife is always the one who comes up with these really awesome but simple ideas. So I wrote, "You have a loving wife who always puts family first." That's something I'm really grateful for. So I put that up here to remind myself of that every time I look at the vision board. Under this piece of paper is a picture of my daughter sitting in the back of our car with a pumpkin. We used to love going to the pumpkin patch in the fall. And anytime I found myself sort of pulled away from my family or going into these obsessive sort of things, I wrote to remind myself to remember, think about what it must feel like for my daughter to get to spend time with her daddy. And every time I read that, it just cuts me. I can't imagine being in her head and feeling like, daddy doesn't want to play with me. That's really powerful for me. So that's like a memory I have that I put on my vision board to remind me to take the time to just sit down and play with her. So things that I'm grateful for really helped remind me that I was in a good place in my life and that the year wasn't really as bad as I thought it was. And in the center, one of the focal points of the vision board is a balance or a scale. Throughout the year, I was just missing a sense of balance in my life. So that was a really powerful symbol. One other thing you need to remember while you're making your vision board is that there's no rules. So you can see I picked out quotes, and even some of these I wrote myself just to remind me of the things that were important. I printed pictures off the internet. Some people use magazines. I tried to get a little bit creative with the chalkboard idea. There are no rules. Just follow your heart or make the vision board yours and make it effective for you. So overall, this vision board really helped me just center myself in my new role as just sort of this weird full-time father thing that I'd never really done before. It really helped me prioritize the things that are important. It really helped me just remember the things in my life that I'm grateful for that make it so wonderful. Sort of having these statements to myself that I was committing to, having resources to support me with those goals, having a few personal things to focus on, and then the reminders of the things that I'm grateful for. All made this a really effective vision board for me to get me out of that slump. Now, when you make vision boards, it's really easy to just make them and then sort of throw them away or let them collect dust. One thing I recommend doing is putting this in a high traffic area that you are in frequently throughout the day, like the main hallway in your house or in your dining room. It's a great way to connect with your family and discuss your goals openly. I didn't really have a timeline for this vision board. I just knew I was in this slump and I wanted to get myself out of it. But usually having a timeline of 1 year, 5 year, 10 years is helpful to help you actually propel your goals forward. Anytime you stop to look at your vision board, it's nice to look at those quotes and really internalize them and the reasons why they're important to you and your goals. And while you're reading those goals to yourself in your head, look at the pictures and connect the words to the pictures so that you really feel the impact of the things you put on your board and get that full inspirational effect that a vision board can provide. If you are in a slump like I was and you need something sort of tangible to pull you out of that slump, I highly recommend vision board making. It's a great way to connect with yourself and your family and really just center yourself toward a goal of yours, whether it be in 1 year, 5 year, 10 years. Have you built a vision board in the past that worked for you? I'd love to hear your story if you share it in the comments below. Be sure to like this video and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. And be sure to check out the link to our blog below for more on vision board making. Thanks for watching.